Be honest, is there an Elvis song or album you still listen to today? I listen to so much Elvis still. People always said, you're going to be so tired of it by the end because that's all I would listen to, but it's really timeless and I love his music. I still listen to it now. It makes me very happy. Hey, I'm Austin Butler and Esquire has asked me to explain some things. So let's dive in. What was your first reaction to seeing yourself in character for Dune Part 2? What was the physical process for you? I found it very liberating to be able to look in the mirror and not see myself. It was exciting to get to do something completely different from anything that I've done. And the physical process for me was very early on. Denis told me that he said his vision for Fade was to be physically imposing. They set me up with Duffy Gaver, who was this incredible physical trainer who had worked with Brad Pitt for Troy, and he helped me put on size. I just did whatever he said, There was also a lot of knife training. I was doing Kali, which is Filipino stick fighting, and learning how to fight with knives. So I did that for many months before we started filming. You and Florence are the two newcomers to the Dune franchise. From the original cast, who were you most excited to work with? I can't name just one person. I was so excited to work with everybody. I was such a fan of that film. And Denis is just one of the greatest directors to ever live. And I created such a great relationship with everybody on set. How do you get into the mindset to play Fade? For me, it was very early on not judging him and instead seeing from the inside the world as though everything I'm doing is the right thing, which can be a tricky thing to justify behavior that on paper would seem evil. And the way he spoke and finding his voice was really a key in for me. Rumor has it that Timothée Chalamet consulted you for advice on his singing to play Bob Dylan. We're very good friends and we're always talking to each other about creative things, and we had fun kind of talking through the creative process, and I told him things that helped me, and I think he's gonna crush it with that. I'm so excited. You hosted SNL. Any chance on taking on a comedic role? I had a lot of fun on SNL. That was a dream of mine for many years, and I watched it with my mom when I was growing up, so that was a really special moment. And I love comedic films, so who knows? I don't know. Do you ever take a souvenir from set after you wrap a project? Yeah, I do. What have I taken? For bike riders, I took my leather jacket. I took the jean vests. From Elvis, I have the leather jumpsuit, rings and things. I take from Dune. Took some knives, some of the knives that we used to fight with. I love having pieces that you can remember a special time in your life. All right, so this says there are a ton of sites that talk about your personal style. What is the one piece of clothing you can't live without? A good pair of boots, great jacket, and probably a good white t-shirt. It's one of those. What drew you to this role after working in Australia, which is Masters of the Air? I was thinking about this the other day because I finished Elvis. I'd been working on that for 3 years. I had no idea what is going to happen, if people will even watch the film or like the film. And I felt very sad, to have that chapter coming to a close and to have something else that I could pour that creative energy into, and just to be around people that I've always admired, like Spielberg and Tom. And it was a wonderful way of transitioning, and just learning a lot. I had such a great time. You are known for your character research. Can you explain your research for this role? This was an interesting one because I didn't have as much time as I would usually desire before. So I had about a week off between finishing Elvis and starting Masters of the Air. But thankfully, when I arrived in London, I had quarantine time. So I was locked in a hotel room by myself, and I rewatched Band of Brothers in the Pacific, and then we went straight into boot camp. And so that was also incredibly helpful because we had time of getting to bond and learn about the time period and physically get into that space. So that was my research. Did you have any flight training for Masters of the Air? And if so, what did it entail? So what we had were flight simulators, and we had cockpits, and we had pilots who taught us everything about the cockpit. So by the end of it, I felt as though I could take off and land an airplane. But when you're in a B-17, it sort of feels like you're in a tin can. And then you're imagining flying through the sky and flak and being shot at, and sometimes only 1 in 3 men would come back. Then they go to dinner in London at night. And so the psychological toll of that juxtaposition is sort of unfathomable. These men were so brave to go up there. You were with an ensemble cast in this series. What was the vibe on set when the camera stopped rolling? There was a brotherhood on set. We were all in boot camp together. From that first day at boot camp, everybody just got very close. And It was a fun set to be on. We know you had a 12-hour audition for this movie. Tell us something we don't know about what happened in those 12 hours. I was doing this play, The Iceman Cometh, in New York. I flew on my one day off to meet Quentin in LA. The audition itself didn't last 12 hours. At a certain point, he gave me the job, and then he said, but now I need you to read the script, so that way you know if you actually want to do it. And it was more just about, he wasn't going to email the script, it was very confidential. So the audition itself lasted for quite a while. I had 3 other meetings that day, and I didn't have my phone because they take your phone away from you, so that's why my agent was worried. So I just missed all these other meetings, and then I finally called them and I told them that I got the part and that I had just read the script. So by that point they were happy. I think the biggest takeaway from being directed by Quentin is he instills such a trust, and how wonderful of a director he is. And to be able to surrender completely to a director in that way is very freeing and incredibly fun. And on top of that, he makes the set such a wonderful place to be. The Bike Riders is releasing this summer. What was it like working with Jeff, Jody, and Tom? I've been a huge fan of Jeff Nichols, Jodie Comer, and Tom Hardy. It was a real joy to get to collaborate with them on this. We just had the time of our lives. It was really fun. Did you already know how to ride a motorcycle before filming The Bike Riders? I knew how to ride, but I trained a lot for this because I'd only been on contemporary bikes beforehand. So this was, we're all on bikes from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and they ride very differently and they don't really want to stop. And so I had to train a lot for that. But what's better than that? It was so much fun. What motivated you to join the cast of The Iceman Cometh on Broadway? That was such a no-brainer for me. I moved to New York when I was 20, and I used to see 14 plays in 2 weeks. I would go constantly. I'd go back to the same play and watch it over and over, and I was really obsessed with it. And then in this case, it was working with Denzel Washington, with George Wolfe, with David Morse. It was such an incredible cast. The opportunity to get to work with all of them I knew that I was going to learn so much. Thanks for watching. I hope I explained some things. Have a great day.